If it were up to me, this is exactly where I would put the speakers in this room. Hi, I'm Kurt from Hi-Fi. One of the most difficult things working in the audio industry is working with a lot of people's different environments, the arrangement of their rooms. It actually can be quite difficult because the worst thing we're going to say is, yeah, let's butcher your living room just to get the best possible sound. What we will be going through is 6 steps on how to achieve the best possible positioning, however, in more of a practical setup. So step number 1 is finding the location and making sure it looks good. So usually that's going to be between, for example, you got 2 speakers beside a fireplace. A lot of times you might have a media cabinet with a TV on top and the 2 speakers aside. And those are usually the best positions in your living space or your living room. Don't worry about exactly where they're going to be located, just where it practically looks the best, that will make your family and your other half happy. Step 2, figuring out the practical listening positioning. So a lot of times, a lot of people, what they will do is they'll have one single chair and use that as their primary listening position and then work the rest of the furniture around that. For example, in here, what we'll have is we have a sectional, a 3-seater sectional, and I position the middle seat to be aligned up right with the center of the speakers. Step 3, measure out a triangle between the speakers and your listening position. You will see later how we're going to use this to determine what might be the optimal positions in your setup. Step number 4 is what most of us don't do, is read the manuals. A lot of times there's going to be kind of a general guideline, and I don't want to say all speaker manufacturers will have that, but a lot of them will have a general guideline of where to or how to position your speakers. Working with several speaker manufacturers in the past, especially when on the distribution side, a lot of the engineers even told me that they would actually position the speakers to account for the wall behind them. In some cases, a lot of them were designed to go close to the wall, or really even considering a 6 decibel jump in the bass. So follow the recommendation from the distance between the speakers. Usually this range is quite big. I've seen sometimes you see anywhere between 6 to 10 or even 12 feet that you have to work with, and this will come in handy optimizing the speaker setup. After you have read the recommendation for placement of the speakers, to check, are they within spec? Usually they're probably not going to be at this point, especially considering where your ideal positioning is. Step 5, position the speakers according to the manufacturer's guideline. So at this point, it will usually be between 20 to 30 inches from the back wall. Another tip to consider is always try not to keep a perfect square between your side wall and your back wall. So for example, if you're 2 feet from your back wall, you want to be about 3 feet from your side wall. And now that you have done that, remember what I mentioned about measuring out that triangle from your listening position to the speakers? Measure it and see exactly where you're at. The whole idea behind this is to try to create as much of an equilateral triangle as possible. One last thing that we need to cover is toe-in. The best suggestion I would say here is just follow the recommendations from the manufacturer. Sometimes they might be a little bit extreme. You will see that they actually want the speakers facing almost toed in directly to your ears. What I would recommend to do is kind of find that happy media that also even works cosmetically in the room. Because remember, the most important things that we're trying to emphasize in the setup is making sure everything cosmetically looks good as well. Step 6. Locate for your best possible listening position, keeping in mind that equilateral triangle. So what we want you to focus here is, a lot of times is, yes, you're not going to get that exact equilateral triangle, but the most practical setup that will cosmetically look nice in your room, maybe try to squeeze an extra few inches if you're a little bit off from that equilateral triangle. Now that you completed all these steps, don't worry if it's not perfect. A lot of manufacturers, their recommendations, they have tolerances on this, and sometimes it's not always based on that equilateral triangle. Some manufacturers actually want you to add 20% to the listening position from that equilateral triangle. So if it's not perfect, don't sweat it, it's still going to sound good. So make sure you tap on that notification bell. In the next series, what we're going to be covering is the practical setup, but however, ways you can really fine tune the sound, especially for those that want to maximize it as much as possible. We're also going to be doing other videos, what to do, for example, if you have an open concept, so one side is open and the left side is closed. We'll go into that in detail. Also too, what happens if you have a dedicated listening room and you can put the speakers wherever you want. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.